Yo, what up guys, I'm Sammy and welcome back to the Soul Brothers channel. And a lot of you guys actually requested this video via Instagram DMs, right? So this is of course the Nike KD15 versus the Nike PG6. There is a pretty big price difference. The PG6 is 110 bucks and the KD15 is 150 bucks. So if you guys do want to cop either of these shoes, I'll leave an affiliate link in the description box. The KD15 is not available yet, but it will be soon in like a week or two. But let's get started right off with the Tracciones, right? And they're both absolutely amazing, top tier traction patterns. If you're playing on a clean court, you're gonna have an amazing bite. You're gonna stop on a dime. Both of these shoes have top tier tractions and they're on like the top tractions list, right? Also, if you're gonna be playing on a dusty setting, they both pick up very minimal dust. And if they do pick up dust, it's just a very, very easy and very slight wipe, so you should be good to go on a dusty court. Also, if you're playing on an outdoor court, however, I feel like they're both pretty bad. I mean, the KD15, like this, it's just super soft and the grooves are super thin, right? Here in the PG6, the grooves are a little bit thicker, but it's still like soft. So I feel like the PG6 would be just a tiny bit better for an outdoor court, but I would not recommend playing on outdoor court with either of these shoes. So actually, I would tie it up for traction performance. They're both extremely good. And if you're playing on an indoor court, you're gonna have a very good time. All right, moving on to the heel to toe transition. So they're both extremely nice, right? Here in the PG6, we have this React. It's actually a full length React. We have a nice bounce from the React, which I like. And we have a rounded shape, so it gives you a nice bounce when you're doing heel dominant strides. And then in the forefoot, we have a nice curve shape and a lot of forefoot flex, but we also have good torsional support. Same thing here in the KD15, right? I would actually say it's a little bit stiffer and not as nice as the PG6 as far as the heel goes because it is caged, as you guys can see. But that's just nitpicking. It's still nice, you know, there's still nice compression, although it's a little bit more edged out than the PG6, right? Here in the forefoot, we have a nice curve shape and nice forefoot flex as well. So I would pretty much tie it up for heel to toe transition. They're both very smooth. It's just I like the heel a little bit better here in the PG6. All right, moving on to the cushioning setup. So it's pretty different, you know. So the PG6, it has full length React and it feels extremely nice. Here in the heel, there's a good amount of compression, right? And I would actually say the heel feels just a tiny bit higher than the KD15. However, the forefoot feels a little bit lower to the ground than the KD15, right? So there is a little bit more of an offset in the PG6. The KD15 feels a little bit flatter. But either way, we have a nice little bounce back as well here in the heel for the PG6, like I mentioned before. As far as the step and comfort goes, it's pretty nice. You can feel the React just a tiny bit, but it's not super soft or anything. And obviously, it's nowhere near as much compression and bounce as the Zoom Strobel unit. You know, it's a full-length Zoom Strobel unit in the KD15. It's really crazy. And if you want it's something a little bit more responsive, obviously go with the PG6, but if you like full-length Zoom Strobel, then go with the KD15. It all depends for me. You know, for me, I would actually say I like the PG6 a little bit better for like an everyday ball shoe. There definitely are times where I really like playing in Zoom Strobel, and obviously there are times where I would prefer the KD15 over the PG6, but it's not like an everyday shoe for me. You know, I don't really want to play in Zoom Strobel every single day or every time I go play ball, right? So that's just my personal opinion. It all depends on what you like as well. Of course, for impact protection, they're both really good, especially on heel strikes. But if you're doing hard impact landings on your forefoot, I would say the KD15 is better. So there's the cushioning setup. I mean, they're both really nice, and I definitely feel like it's subjective, and obviously pick whatever you think you would like more and you should be good to go. All right, moving on to the material. Somehow the PG6, the $40 cheaper shoe, has better materials in my opinion, right? So here in the PG6, we have a nice textile material. I guess like once you come here into the ankle area, it does get a little bit cheaper, but same thing with the KD15, right? Here in the KD15, we have a mesh material. I mean, it's really thin as well and super soft, but this mesh I feel like isn't as nice as this textile, just in my personal opinion. And then here in the midfoot, we have this plastic cage, you know, for support, of course. And then here in the PG6, we don't really have anything. It's more like a open mesh, kind of, with like an underlying material. It's like a rectangular mesh, actually, which is pretty interesting. And then for the tongue, I would actually say the PG6 has a little bit more. Actually, no, they're both very nicely padded. It's just the PG6 feels just a tiny bit more padded action, just a tiny bit. But the KD15 still feels super nice on top of your foot. Now here in the ankle area, I would say it's around the same as well. So on foot, it's pretty much the same. It feels really similar on foot, you know, nice padding here in the tongue. Material here in the forefoot and here in the midfoot feels really thin and also very minimal, conforms to your foot. Here in the ankle area, it's very similar too. So I would tie it up for performance, and it feels really nice on foot for both of the shoes. But for quality, I would say I like the PG6 a little bit more. Alright, moving on to the fit, I went true to size for both of these shoes and they both fit snug, right? So for length, I was good to go going true to size, right? My toes go pretty much right to the edge of both of the shoes. I would actually say the PG6, there's a little bit more length though. Also here in the toe box, the KD15 is a little bit more snug. Which of course that makes sense. KDs are usually super snug, but this mesh material does stretch out a little bit, and so does the PG6 material. This textile material also stretches out a good amount, so it does get a little bit roomier once you break in both of the shoes, but the PG6 overall is a little bit roomier. Still snug, of course, but it's a little bit roomier than the KD15, and both of these shoes are pretty damn narrow. I would actually say the KD15 also is a little bit more narrow, but they're both around the same, pretty damn narrow. So for me, I really like the fit in both of these shoes. If you want a roomier fit or you have a wide foot, I would suggest going up half a size for both of these shoes. Alright, moving on to the support and lockdown. As far as lateral containment goes, here in the KD15, I had pretty much zero issues. So we do have the foam acting as a sidewall here in the forefoot just a tiny bit. We have the midfoot cage, and we have an internal TPU heel counter. For the PG6, same thing. We have the rubber outsole coming up acting as a sidewall and an internal TPU heel counter, but the material it feels a little bit less supportive, you know what I mean? This mesh material doesn't feel as supportive either, but it's this cage. You know, this cage in the midfoot, I feel like does a good job of keeping this like entire upper in place, you know, because the PG6, the material rolls over on itself just a tiny bit. So for lateral containment, I felt my foot kind of like hitting the material and rolling over it a little bit. Of course, like it was adequate for me. I had zero issues with the support here in the PG6. It's just that I feel like if you're a little bit bigger and you do a lot of shiftier moves, the KD15 is probably the better option for lateral containment. And as far as the lateral stability goes, let's see which shoe is wider. So they're around this, they're actually pretty much the same width. So for lateral stability, they're both really good in both of the shoes. All right, moving on to the weight. The KD15 is probably a little bit heavier, right? Yeah, so 12.7 ounces for the KD15. That's definitely not heavy at all. That's average weight. The PG6 is a little bit lighter though, 12.2 ounces. So yeah, you definitely feel a little bit lighter here in the PG6. They're both extremely responsive though, but because of the Zoom strobe unit and how much compression there is, it just feels just a tiny bit less responsive than the PG6, where it's just like, it's just the foam, you know what I mean? But traction, super good in both of these shoes. Support, I had zero issues with. So you're gonna feel extremely quick and light on your feet when you're playing in both of the shoes. All right, moving on to the ventilation. They're both good, you know, super thin materials. However, the KD15 allows for a little bit more airflow, especially because of the perforations in the tongue. So the KD15 is a little bit better for ventilation. Moving on to the aesthetics. Oof, I feel like I like the PG6 a little bit better. The PG6 colorways that are coming out, the GR releases, and also the PEs that Paul George has been playing in are all super dope. The KD15 also is a great looking shoe. I'm waiting for some PEs. KD actually hasn't been bringing out any crazy PEs, but either way, for the overall design, I feel like the PG6 looks a little bit better. So tell us what you guys think looks better down in the comment section below. So wrapping things up, it's actually toss up. You know, they're both amazing performers and you can't really go wrong, but they are a little bit different, of course, especially the cushioning setup, right? So of course, if you're trying to save money, obviously go with the PG6 because it's $40 cheaper. That's a good amount of money, right? But you know, the traction they're both really good. Material in the upper, like I said, feels extremely similar. Support, they're both really good, although the KD15 is just a tiny bit better for lateral containment. But of course, the biggest difference is the cushioning setup, right? So if you don't want that crazy Zoom strobe unit and you don't want to play in that every single day, obviously go with the PG6. If you really like Zoom strobe and you wanted something a little bit more responsive than the KD14, because I do know a good amount of people that said the KD14 cushion line was a little too soft and a little bit mushy, then obviously the KD15 is a great option. For me personally though, like I mentioned earlier in this video, I really like playing in the PG6. I play in this shoe a lot, and it's just a great everyday shoe for me. The cushion is responsive, but also you have great impact protection, and I like that nice little bounce in the heel with the React. The KD15, because of that Zoom Strobel unit, it's just like not an everyday shoe for me, although it's a great performer, right? But anyways, that about concludes this video. Again, if you guys do want to cop either of these shoes, I'll try to leave an affiliate link in the description box, but that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.